How the devil are we? I'm Matt, and we're back. It's been a hot one in the UK this week. Still a bit warm today. It's Friday. We're back with some more alien abductions, and this time Slap Time takes us through 10 abduction cases that has the government worried. Which government? Probably the US government. They're the only ones who are ever talking about UFOs. Let's go and take a look.
How you doing? I'm Callan and this is Slapped Ham. Today we're talking about some super creepy alien encounters. From a woman who says she's been abducted by aliens too many times to remember, to a man who says he's fathered children with a female extraterrestrial creature. We count 10 famous alien abduction cases that have left the government worried. And before we get into it, remember to hit that subscribe button for more awesome creepy content just like this.
Alright, so he had sex with an alien. Well, I wonder what it'll... Hopefully it's a tall white, because they're the only ones who look relatively non-terrifying.
Hilary Porter, a Wales native, has reported that she's been abducted by extraterrestrials on numerous occasions throughout her life. Hilary remembers an incident that occurred when she was just 5. As she was playing in a bush with long grass behind her house, a reptilian-like ET that had black holes for a mouth and nose and scaly skin appeared. She describes it as being exceptionally strong and standing over 5 feet tall. The creature then proceeded to grab her and carry her to a disc-shaped ship. Hilary was then stripped bare and put upon a bed where the ET began prodding her with a variety of instruments.
Imagine being 5 and how terrifying that would be. One thing though is... How do I say this? It sounds to me like, could this not be something traumatic that's happened to her? Same chain of events, but she's sort of remembering it differently? I don't know.
It was at this moment that Porter blacked out. Many years later, Hilary was driving with her husband when they suddenly arrived at a garage. Neither of them remember how they got there. Later that day, as she was undressing, she noticed a triangular red suction mark on her belly. After being abducted countless times, Miss Porter claims to regularly suffer from migraines, as well as waking up with bloodstains on her clothes and bruises and scratches on her body at various times. Hilary, who has even worked for the Ministry of Defence,
I wonder what she did for the MOD.
has recreated images from her memories of these extraterrestrials. She also claims of being able to communicate with these beings telepathically, and that their purpose of visiting Earth is to collect human genetic material.
That seems to be a common theme, actually, across many different abduction cases.
On September 19, 1961, an American couple, Betty and Barney Hill, claimed to have been abducted by aliens. Their detailed accounts would become known as the flagship case of alien encounters. It all began on their way home to New Hampshire from visiting Niagara Falls. While driving down Route 3, Betty noticed a strange light in the sky. At first, she thought it must have been a falling star, only it began to move erratically in different directions. After watching the strange light for some time, the couple pulled over just south of Twin Mountain so they could take a better look. Betty examined the bright light with a pair of binoculars, and what she saw was a spinning disc with what appeared to be windows running its length.
It's amazing how, if you think about it, nowadays we've got orbs, which are like the modern UFO phenomena. But back in the 40s and 50s, it was all flying saucers. But you don't see many flying saucers. Then in the 90s, it was black triangles. Wonder why that is.
At first, they thought it was simply an airliner, but the craft suddenly descended in their direction with bright flashing lights. The couple returned to their car and drove to a nearby mountain pass, Franconian Notch. For some time they watched the object as it flew back and forth across the night sky, until it suddenly descended once more and hovered just above the car. Barney slammed on his brakes and exited the vehicle. He could see 8 to 11 humanoid figures peering out of the windows of the craft. Barney claims that one of the beings communicated with him. "Stay where you are and keep looking."
Not sure. I'd stay where I am and keep looking. I think I'd be out of there, to be honest.
The long structure lowered from the hull of the craft. Barney ran back to the car hysterically shouting, "They're going to capture us." The couple drove off at high speed, but
That picture looked like the scene from Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
the sky suddenly became black and empty. Almost immediately, the couple could hear a strange rhythmic beep or buzzing sound surround the car. It bounced off the car and left Betty and Barney with a pulsing, tingling sensation through their bodies before a second wave of beeps took place. The couple noticed they had driven 56 kilometers in just a few minutes. They felt numb and their minds were dull. Upon arriving home in the early hours of the morning, Betty and Barney found that their memories of the previous night were fragmented.
Yeah, that's a common trope with abduction cases. Missing time. Not remembering how you got to a certain place. Clothes tattered or put on incorrectly.
While having
I mean, these advanced beings, right, came from another star system or somewhere else, but had the technology to bring you here, abduct you, but they don't know how to put sort of like your clothes on normally or keep it in one piece.
strange impulses.
I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just saying it's just strange.
Betty insisted
But then the entire subject is strange.
that her luggage be kept at the rear of the house and not in the usual spot. Barney felt the urge to examine his genitals over and over. Their watches stopped giving time.
I mean, I did in the 20s, but that's probably the mid-20s, but that was for different reasons.
Mysterious concentric circles were found on the car that would send compasses into a spin. Betty found one of her dresses to be irreparably damaged, covered in a strange pink powder. However, she placed the clothing on the line and the pink powder blew away. The clothes were subjected to tests from 5 independent laboratories. On September 21, Betty phoned Pease Air Force Base to report the UFO incident. She was interviewed by Major Paul W. Henderson, who would file a report stating that the Hills had misidentified Jupiter.
It really annoys me, but that is so lazy back in the day. It's like every single sighting was a star or a bright... I mean, like you couldn't tell what a bright star is in the sky. It certainly doesn't buzz your car. It doesn't have 11 people staring at you or 11 aliens staring at you. It certainly doesn't move erratically.
The report was later changed a number of times from optical condition to inversion and finally insufficient data. The couple would later go on to try hypnosis in an attempt to unlock the blurry memories of the encounter. They were referred by psychiatrist Dr. Stevens to hypnotist Benjamin Simon of Boston. Barney's hypnotherapy sessions revealed memories of being taken aboard a craft and
imagine being lay on a table, not able to move, and you're seeing that.
getting examined by 3 humanoid figures. Under the hypnosis, Barney said things like, "Oh, those eyes, they're there in my brain, and I was told to close my eyes because I saw 2 eyes coming close to mine, and it felt like the eyes had pushed into my eyes." Barney described a dome-shaped object placed over his genitals to retrieve a sperm sample. A long tube was inserted into his anus, his skin was scraped. The humanoid examiners studied his ears, hair, and teeth. One seemed to be counting the vertebrae of Barney's spine. The beings seemed to be communicating through telepathy, and a strange and unknown language was heard by Barney several times during the encounter.
I mean, that sounds horrific, to be honest.
Betty's sessions were remarkably similar to Barney's, with many matching and telling details. She showed considerable emotional stress during one of the sessions, which had to be ended early due to anxiety. During one session, Betty recalled a star map that had been shown during the abduction. Dr. Simon suggested she recreate the star map as a way of processing her memories more clearly. She drew the map and explained that the long solid lines were trade routes, while the dotted lines were stars less visited. Local newspapers broke the story to the public, with the Boston Traveler boasting.
Did it come out years later that turns out to be Zeta Reticuli, I think?
The front page headline, "UFO Chiller, Did They Seize Couple?" In 1966, writer John G. Fuller, with the aid of the Hills and Dr. Simon, wrote a book detailing the abduction called The Interrupted Journey, which became a huge success. The book featured Betty's famous star map. The encounter has since been a constant fuel for fascination in the media. Movies, TV shows, documentaries have all featured the Hills' mysterious encounter on September 19, 1961.
I mean, we're talking about a time where interracial couples were probably not socially, well, I wouldn't say acceptable, but it were frowned upon back in them days. So to come out not only to publicise that you're an interracial couple, but to say that you've been abducted by aliens. Yeah, I mean, what was the upside, really?
November of 1975 saw a couple of lumberjacks in Arizona reporting having seen their workmate, Travis Walton, being lifted through the air via a beam of light emanating from a craft above the trees.
And I've seen the film, Fire in the Sky. Really good film. Go and check it out. And to be fair, I don't think his story, and someone might correct me, but I don't think his story's changed years and years and years later. Some people think it was a hoax him and his mates pulled, but I don't know.
Even though the lumberjacks reported Travis as missing, the police suspected that his colleagues had murdered him and disposed of his body. Nevertheless, Travis appeared 5 days later, claiming that he had been captured by aliens. He recalled waking up on a table surrounded by little creatures in orange gowns. He described their skin as being smooth and chalky with bald heads that were disproportionate to their bodies. Also, their eyes were shiny, brown and huge.
See, it's weird. I mean, how many different aliens... I mean, what it could be, thinking about it, is the reason why you see so many different species of aliens is not that there's different species of aliens, it's just your perception of what you're seeing. Like, because obviously there's a mental component where they could talk to you telepathically and, they can make you walk towards a craft and they can make you lie on a table, you can't move, you've got missing time. If they can manipulate all that, then surely they can manipulate your perception of them. So maybe they don't look anything like what we think they look like. It's just that's our perception of what they look like.
Walton then escaped from the creatures,
if they exist,
and met some humans on board the UFO who were dressed in blue overalls. Instead of speaking to him, the humans applied a gas mask on his face which made him lose consciousness. The next thing Travis remembered was waking up on a roadside in Arizona.
I don't remember that bit of the Fire in the Sky film about humans in blue overalls being on the craft.
Many of the stories that involve being abducted by aliens usually miss one important element that can verify their credibility: a witness. Well, this particular incident, which occurred in 1976, involved 4 men that reported to have experienced the same abduction. It was a secret that they almost went to their graves with. These men were in Maine in a canoe trying to catch some fish when they observed a gleaming object in the sky that was about 80 feet in diameter, with constantly changing yellow, green and red colours. The men then watched as the object came down and beamed them together with their canoe with a blinding light.
I'd not heard of this case, to be honest. It's strange that they beam the canoe up. So many different methods. Some UFOs land, then they carry you into the craft, but then some have got the ability to teleport you through solid matter in some cases, or just beam you up. Are we dealing with multiple species of different technology, or is it all fake? Is it all bollocks? I don't know.
It was only after several hours that they came to with no recollection whatsoever of what had happened during the abduction. Shortly after, they all began experiencing nightmares. They were all put under hypnosis, where they revealed that their abductors were not people from Earth. Additionally, they took lie detector tests about their claims, which they passed. Air Force Sergeant Charles L. Moody was in Alamogordo, New Mexico when he encountered a disc-shaped object, which was metallic and glowing as he was observing a meteor shower. The object departed the shower and fell.
I think I remember this case. I think it might have been in, wasn't Ancient Aliens or anything like that. There was, can't remember, it's some popular series or YouTube channel covered this.
About 300 feet away. Frightened, Moody tried desperately to start his car, but it wouldn't turn over. The UFO hovered close to Moody's car, which he claims he could see several shadowy figures standing in a rectangular window on the side of the craft. It was at this point Moody felt a strange buzzing sensation and a wash of lethargy fell over him. The next thing he remembers is that the UFO flew away. Suddenly his car engine started and he drove off in a cloud of dust. When Moody arrived home, he was shocked to realise that it was 3 AM and that nearly 1.5 hours had passed unaccounted for. Over the following few days, strange ailments began to appear through Moody's body. He suffered from a bizarre lower back pain, had a rash all over his lower body, and had bouts of inexplicable anxiety.
Yeah, there was, I think, cases in, was it New Mexico or Brazil, where UFOs were causing physical ailments. Yeah. Seems to be another sort of common factor with abduction cases, as well as implants. That's not been mentioned yet.
Moody went to a doctor who suggested the symptoms were due to stress. The doctor suggested hypnotherapy to work through some of the anxiety. It was in these hypno sessions that terrifying memories began flooding back. Moody recalled two beings about 6 foot in height standing over him while lying on his back. Next to the two taller creatures was a shorter one that seemed to be a leader.
What's up with that tunnel? I know it's probably a Photoshop or generated, because this is some years ago now, so it's probably not AI generated, but just studying a tunnel on the spaceship, you'd be like, you need to tidy that shit up. You got loose clothing on the floor over there. You got all this rubble here. You're like studying a sewage drain.
Of some kind. It was wearing a silver suit and had whitish grey skin with a large bald head. He then claims he was shown around the ship. The aliens showed Moody something they referred to as the drive unit and explained that they were only on a landing craft. The mothership was apparently in orbit some 400 miles away. At this point, the Air Force sergeant was made unconscious again. Moody awoke in his car, dazed and confused as to what just happened. This is among the earliest known.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because in some cases, I mean, the Travis Walton case, going back to that one, in an interview, I think he said he walked towards a craft and all his mates were like, get in the car, get in the car. They were panicking. He walked towards the craft and he sort of got hit by what he said was like almost like a laser. And it knocked him off his feet and it knocked him unconscious. And he reckons that they weren't trying to harm him. Something caused physical damage to him. And what they were doing in terms of the procedure when he was on the table is them trying to help him. That's what he thinks anyway. But, I mean, if that's a real case, and you know what? It's a strong contender for being real. Because he's not changed his story over the years. More details have come out, but he's saying that he's remembering more. The fact that his mate sort of did one in the car, if that was real, I'd be like, out of order. I would not leave my mate lying on the floor. I would be getting him the fireman lift and getting him out of there.
Alien abduction cases and was reported by the Stockton Evening Mail in 1896. Colonel Shaw had been travelling in a horse carriage together with a companion and they were headed towards Lodi, California. Their horses suddenly became startled after they saw 3 strange beings by the side of the road. The creatures appeared to be slender humanoids that were about 7 feet tall, bald with soft velvet skin covering their bodies. They didn't communicate but rather warbled towards them in a strange chant. They were holding lamps that seemed to shine unnaturally bright. The humanoids were indescribably
Sounds like torches to me.
Beautiful, according to Shaw. They attempted to lift him and carry him away, but Shaw proved to be too heavy for them.
See, conflicting. Because you had the first case where she said unusually strong for a creature 5 foot in size, but then apparently not strong enough to carry this guy.
They then put him down and floated away. Shaw attempted to follow them, but they reached a huge spaceship which flew away.
Interesting.
Jesse Long was only 5 years of age when he met with and was abducted by ETs for the first time. He'd been playing in the woods with his brother when they came across a round structure in a small clearing. It was then that a tall figure surfaced and paralysed them. Long then recalls being carried into the craft and being put upon a table. He then saw and felt figures around him prodding his legs.
That's a clip from Fire in the Sky, the Travis Walton story. The bit where he's on the table with the aliens. It's terrifying.
Long claims that he was then abducted multiple times over the next few years. Some of the experiments included extracting his sperm to make a crossbreed with an extraterrestrial female.
It's strange. You know, they say fiction, truth is stranger than fiction. There's actually now being discussed on the news, now that with the alien files being released, war.gov/UFO, that apparently, and again, this is all hearsay without evidence, but apparently there's a hybridization program to crossbreed humans and aliens. And people are talking about it. So,
says that in
strange.
1990, the aliens presented to him a baby that they claim was his. He was then introduced to a first.
You know when people will show you pictures of like babies and it's like, oh, look at my baby, and you look at it going, oh, Jesus. But obviously they're so proud of it and like, you know, beautiful to new parents, but Jesus.
The 9 of his hybrid alien kids. Antonio Vilas Boas, a Brazilian farmer, saw a red
Antonio Vilas Boas, I thought he was a football player.
like star in October 1957. As the light got closer, Boas began making out the shape of a spaceship. It used 3 leg-like structures to land on his field. He attempted to escape in his tractor but was quickly captured by a small humanoid that had blue eyes. Boas says he was taken to the ship and covered with a gel-like substance. He claims to have been forced into having sex with a female creature that had pubic hair which glowed red. The aim of the aliens was to create hybrids that would be raised in outer space. He was then escorted from the craft and arrived on Earth about 4 hours later. Boas had burns on his body and complained of nausea and headaches. Doctors eventually...
Weird. Very strange. Very strange. Can you imagine if like the government came out and says, yeah, we know about this. We know about the hybridization program. We knew about it for a while. The theory is that there was an agreement made between the US government and aliens to say, you could abduct our people if you provide us technology. Imagine if that came out to be true. And then you got all these abductees going, hold on, I was forced basically on a ship and I was forced to have sex with somebody with fiery pubic hair. How many lawsuits would the government open themselves up to?
Eventually diagnosed him of radiation sickness.
But again, it's like there's so many different themes and different versions, and the craft are different, the places that they're going to and from are different, the aliens look different, the methods of abduction are different. And it's weird because you'd think if we're being visited, it's like, are we being visited by like 20,000 species here or something? And why would they come here? What's so interesting about us?
Dahl and Fred Chrisman claim they were working as harbour patrolmen near Maury Island when they observed about 6 disc-shaped objects approximately 2,000 feet above their boat. It's approximated that they were about 100 feet in diameter plus a central hole which was about 25 feet.
See what I mean? So many different versions of craft out there.
According to the 2 men, one of the craft poured a strange substance that resembled lava or white metal onto their boat. The mysterious liquid is thought to have broken a worker's arm and killed a dog as it landed on their boat. Dahl claims that he was later
Abductions aside, that just pisses me off. Like, aliens are killing dogs now. I mean, come on.
contacted by a strange man wearing a black suit and was told not to talk about the Maury Island incident. Later, Chrisman and Dahl were contacted by an Air Force intelligence officer who was curious about the case. After recording all the details of the encounter, the Air Force officer died in a mysterious car crash on his way back to California. Some historians think that the Maury Island incident was a hoax. They believe Chrisman and Dahl made the whole thing up in an effort to sell the story for money to a local magazine.
And why would the Air Force show up to a random bunch of people saying we saw UFOs?
Others think the encounter has too
That's if the Air Force person did.
many details to be possibly fake. It's now known as one of the most famous alien encounter cases in recorded history. Before we get to the number one spot and take a look at one of
Who's number one then? Because if Betty and Barney Hill are not number one, and Travis Walton is not number one, who the hell is number one? Right, if you're watching this, have a guess. Have a guess yourselves. And let me know in the comments whether you actually got it or not. Because I'm thinking they would have been number one between those two. They definitely would have been number one and number two on my list. I can't think of any that are more famous than that, to be honest.
the most detailed alien abduction cases ever recorded. Remember to hit that subscribe button and turn on channel notifications. That way you'll be up to date with all our latest content.
Absolutely, get over there, subscribe. And please hit subscribe here as well.
On January 25, 1976, Betty Andreasson Luca was in the kitchen of her home at South Ashburnham, Massachusetts, while
is this the case where apparently 2 police officers observed her being abducted?
her father, mother, and her 7 children were in the living room. At around 6:30 p.m, the lights in the house suddenly flickered and went dark for a moment. This was followed by a reddish-orange pulsating light that shined through the kitchen window. She says she began calming her frightened kids as her father went to look at the situation. This is when he saw a clique of strange-looking humanoids approaching the house in a hopping motion. The 5 creatures came into the house through the wooden door. The frightened family was then suspended into the air in a state of unawareness. One of the creatures then went over to her dad while the leader of the
Just stare at that. Imagine like the room's dark and you wake up in the middle of the night because you heard something. You just go like, oh, you know, like half asleep, going, oh, what the hell is that? And then you look and you're going to see that. First thing I'd do is I'd be like, you know, like left hook followed by a right hook, and then what I'd do next is, you know, being really tough and macho, is I'd leg it, and I wouldn't even stop until your lungs collapsed.
ETs approached Betty and established telepathic communication with her. He seemed to be about 5 feet tall, while the other
Why do they all look cross?
4 looked to be around 4 feet tall. Additionally, they had pear-shaped heads, wide eyes, and very small noses and ears. Their mouths, it seemed, were slits that looked like scar lines to Betty. Additionally, each of the creatures had a blue uniform complete with a brown belt.
Blue uniform again. Consistency on stories.
There was also an insignia of a bird which was fixed on their sleeves. They only had 3 digits on their hands, they had boot-like attire on their feet and seemed to float instead of walk. Nevertheless, Betty's initial feelings of fright were quickly calmed by an overpowering sensation of friendship. When Betty expressed her concern for her family, the beings released her daughter, Becky, who was 11 at the time, temporarily from her unawareness state, to assure her that they meant well.
Sounds like a nice interaction for a change.
She was then taken outside and made to board a small craft that was perched on the side of the hill, whose slope faced Betty's backyard. The craft looked somewhat like 2 saucers, with one inverted on top of the other, with a small structure at the top. This
Sounds like a sport model that Bob Lazar was talking about.
small craft then ascended and joined a larger parent craft in the sky. It was here that Betty underwent a series of physical examinations using
Yeah, it was started out nice, and then it's like, by all means, it's like when you go to the doctors and you go, oh, how are you doing? You know, yeah, your blood pressure's fine. Yeah, we've checked your bloods, everything looks fine there. You know, we've listened to your heartbeat's fine. We've taken your cholesterol readings, cholesterol's fine. Then all you see is putting up a rubber glove, like with middle finger there going, if you just like to remove your undergarments and bend over the table. It's like, turned out all right. And then went downhill pretty quickly.
Strange equipment. Moreover, she described being taken to a strange place where she was given lessons on some bizarre object, which made her have painful yet ecstatic sensations. She was then returned by 2 ETs back home at around 10:40 PM. Here, she found her family still in a suspended animation, with one being that had been left behind to watch over them. The creatures then used some form of mind control to remove them from the suspended state, put them into bed, and then left.
That's nice. At least they tucked them up nice and safe in bed.
Betty says that the ETs had instructed her to forget about them until the time was right, and that there were certain memories locked in her mind that she would unlock in due time. Betty was a devout Christian who had never heard of anything to do with extraterrestrials before that, and actually thought the creatures to be from her religious beliefs. Additionally, she had only had 10 years of schooling, and her interests only revolved around her family and church. A year-long investigation was carried out to determine the authenticity of her claims, where she and her daughter were passed through lie detector tests, hypnotic regression sessions, and character reference checks. Both Betty and her daughter passed the tests.
Well, our alien overlords are nearly here, and I'm about to be probed.
So before Callum gets probed, by all means, get over there and subscribe. I'm surprised the last one was number 1 on the spot. Betty and Barney Hill, the original. Travis Walton, probably one of the most famous abductee cases out there. So, yeah, the last one. It's funny because when it says we give you information that will come out when the time is right, I might have to look into that one because I don't know what information there was. But again, I will reiterate, there seems to be some commonalities across some of the themes, but there seems to be a lot of differences across some of the abduction cases as well. Is that because there's multiple species here, abducted people? Is it just people's perception of what's happening? Or is it just all made up and it's sleep paralysis and other mental illnesses? I don't know. Even ufologists and people like Ross Coulthart and that UFO podcast and a few others have mentioned abductee cases, and even though they're open to the idea, I don't think they're fully sold on it. And I don't know why, because if you fully believe that the UAP and the UFO phenomenon is real and, we've been visited by NHI, why wouldn't you believe the abductee cases are real? I don't know. Maybe it's just a step too far. Anyway, that's all for this one. It was really interesting. Do me a favour, subscribe, leave a comment more than anything. I'm interested to know what you say about this subject. And you take care. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.